2005, when we asked a community of women who blogged if they wanted to help us put on a conference, I heard from a woman who lived in Carmichael, California, who volunteered to run audio for the conference. She was going to help us work with the microphones and try to get all 300 women who came together in Santa Clara from 4 continents heard to each other. And she also was really interested in figuring out whether or not we could do podcasts with this. After that day, where I had watched this warm, funny, unbelievably smart, geeky woman talk about her Learning Movable Type blog and the work that she was starting to do in food, I took a look at her website, simplyrecipes.com. And I began to realize that I was looking at the site of a blog that was already bigger than Katie plus Oprah plus Martha. The single most resonant food blog on the internet at that time continues to be the act of family love and gift to the community that Elise Bauer has built with simplyrecipes.com. She's essentially become the fairy godmother of food bloggers. She's helped launch hundreds of other women and men in the space. She is a mentor. She is a gifted and exacting writing and technology coach. She's an excellent and brave rafter and a hell of a friend. Please help me welcome Elise Bauer to BlogHer 14. Knock a bit.
Wow. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Lisa. Well, my story starts a few years before BlogHer. In 2001. I was an executive at an internet startup company. I had worked in Silicon Valley for many years for companies like Apple and Symantec. And in 2001, my company went bankrupt. Had to lay off 100 people. So many tech companies went bankrupt at that time. I don't know if people out here remember that. In 2001, I also got sick. I got the flu. And normally when you get the flu, you recover from the flu. But I didn't really recover. I would get well, and then a couple weeks later, I'd get sick again. And then that sickness would last longer, and then I'd recover. And then a few weeks later, I'd get sick again, and went on and on and on and on. Until I was so run down, I could barely get through the day. Around the same time, my roommate and my dear friend, Elizabeth, got diagnosed with brain cancer. She died a few months later. And I was still sick. I could barely function. I had lost one of my closest friends, and I could still barely get through the day. I tried really hard for 2 years to get better, and I wasn't getting any better. I was sad, depressed. I could barely function. And in 2003, I just gave up. I surrendered. I said, okay, clearly I can't take care of myself because nothing that I'm doing is working. I packed everything, put it into storage, and I moved home to Carmichael with my parents into the old bedroom that I had in high school. Except this time I wasn't sharing it with my sister. I felt like a complete and utter failure. I was in my early 40s, and I was just devastated. Let's see. There was, however, a little light in this sea of darkness. I had started a food blog. Let's see. You know, when I had been collecting my family's recipes for several years, and I had been hand-coding them in HTML and putting them on my personal website. And if anyone's ever hand-coded HTML, you know that's actually really, really hard. It's just hard. But with blogging software, I was able to publish so easily and quickly, and I thought, okay, well, I'm at home, 42 years old, living with my parents. I can barely get through the day, but I have to eat, and they're fabulous home cooks. So why don't I just continue with this little website, and I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I might as well just learn how to cook from my mom and dad who really know what they're doing, and I'll just take pictures and document. And that's how Simply Recipes started. For the first year living at home, my parents rarely let me cook because I didn't know what I was doing. And they were really good, and they wanted to eat well. And I didn't have a lot of energy to cook anyway, but I was taking pictures, and I was writing the recipes down and putting them up. Eventually, I was learning, so eventually they did let me cook, which is great. Let's see. Every day was this mental exercise those first few years. And by the way, I lived with them for 7 years. And of those 7 years, I was sick for about 5. And I had been sick for a couple years before I moved home. So I was actually sick with chronic fatigue. That's what it was for many, many years. I could barely walk. I think I could walk 50 yards before I then had to stop and just walk home because I was out of breath. I just couldn't function. So every day was this mental exercise for me. I had to choose between feeling sorry for myself or feeling incredibly lucky. It was really easy to feel sorry for myself. I had no job. I had no husband. I had no kids. I had no money. I could barely get through the day. So that was my reality. If I actually looked at my life, and people would say, how come you don't really blog more about your life? And I'm thinking, I am 42 and I live with my parents and I'm sick. And if I look at my life too much, I will get really, really depressed because I'm really sad and I can barely get through the day and my life sucks right now. But there was this wonderful thing I was working on, this food blog. And when I would feel sorry for myself, seriously, I would sit in my bed and I would physically slap myself, say, hey, wake up. You've got a lot going on here. You've got parents who love you. You have parents who are healthy and who can take you in. You get to learn how to cook and improve your writing and photography. And most important is that you are alive. You get to be alive, and some of your friends aren't. So wake up. No more feeling sorry for yourself. No more self-pity. And I still do that sometimes because, sometimes we have this, oh, woe is me. It's like, no, don't get to do that. My one little food blog was what I am focused on. The thing about food and what's so wonderful about food blogging is that food is nourishment. It feeds the body. Food is history and chemistry and biology and culture. It feeds the intellect. And food is loving, it's caring, it's life. It feeds the soul. My focus on my little blog is what healed me. Just focusing on that positive area in my life that was all about love and nourishment. It was all about life. And I sort of cooked myself and blogged myself and embraced myself out of the sickness. It took many years, but that's what we did. The one piece of advice I give to new bloggers starting out blogging is always blog what you love. Blog what you love. Because life is too short to blog about anything else. And believe me, if you blog what you love, that will help keep you going even when life conspires to stop you. It takes way too much energy to blog about things that you don't care about. So blog what you love. Now let's take a look at what life was like in 2005 in the food blogging world. There were just a handful of food bloggers. And these are the ones that are just still around. Adam of Amateur Gourmet, David Leibowitz, Heidi from 101 Cookbooks, Amy of Cooking with Amy, Molly from Orangeette, Pim from Chez Pim, and Nikki and Oliver from Delicious Days. There were maybe 15 or 20 more at that time, but they're not here anymore. These guys have stuck with it, and there I am too. We had all, I think David started a few years before I did, Heidi started maybe a year before I did, but we were sort of the originators, the first ones. At the time, no one really made any real money from blogging. I had been blogging for a couple years at this time, and I made maybe a few dollars a day. And that's after blogging 3 or 5 days a week for 2 years. You know, it's just there just wasn't money there. Bloggers, including food bloggers, got very little respect. Established, respected journalists publicly mocked us in national magazines. And Kaylin, I know you're out here somewhere, and you know, like, yeah, I remember those days, right? And we looked at this and we thought, okay, all right, yeah, you guys don't get it. And we kept at it. We kept cooking. We kept writing about what we loved to do. We kept writing and writing about what we had for lunch that day. And we got together, we met each other, we encouraged other people who wanted to food blog, we shared with them everything that we knew about it. We built it all together, sharing. In fact, I kind of think of food bloggers as the indies of the food publishing world. And we learned from each other. And over the years, our cooking got better, our writing got better, our photography got better. And I think you look out now, you look at what's happening in the food blogging space now, it's really extraordinary. And there's no more of this don't get respect from old-time journalists. All those old-time journalists now have their own blogs. But things have changed a little bit, like actually quite a bit, from how we blogged 10 years ago to how we blog today. A few years ago, there were only a handful of food bloggers. Now there are tens and thousands of food bloggers. And there are probably millions of people that express their passion for food online through blogs and social media. So, in fact, what we have to do now as publishers of content is be really aware and be on all of these different social media platforms as well. So, of course, there's the blog, but then there's also Facebook, and Pinterest, and Instagram, and Twitter, and Google+, and lots of different places to put your content. All of this makes our job a lot more challenging. My typical workflow for a recipe a year ago, like 10 years ago, was just cook dinner, write it up as a recipe, take a picture of it, write it up as a recipe, and that's it. Maybe a couple sentences of head notes. Now, you come up with an idea for a recipe, test it, buy the food, test the recipe, then probably needs to test it again, and sometimes I test it again. Almost every recipe on the site now gets tested 2 or 3 or 4 times. While I'm testing the recipes, I'm taking pictures of methods as we're doing that. Then I'll actually sit down and write up the recipe. I also have to take a picture of, actually before I write the recipe up, I take a picture of the final recipe with food styling, tricks, and lighting, and backgrounds, and which bowl, and should I use the slate, or should I use the wood background, or how about marble? And then make sure we're taking sizes that are horizontal for the blog, but vertical for Pinterest. So many different sizes, different backgrounds, and then I write up the recipe, and then I'll publish it. And then, then I have to actually upload a photo for Pinterest, and they always like graphics on that, so let me write some text on that one, upload it to Pinterest. And then let's go share it on Facebook, and on Google+, and on Twitter, and make sure we're showing both the pin it button or the Pinterest URL. I mean, it just gets really overwhelming. I don't know if you guys find that, but wow, you know, what used to take just a few hours now takes several days. Is that familiar to anybody out here? Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the social media demands to stay, it's like you have to do that or you won't be relevant. It's like, okay, all right. You're like, wow, everybody's over here. It's like, ooh, let me go over here. Like, no, now they're over here. I mean, it's just, oh la la, it's crazy. So where does this leave us today and how to navigate this? And this sort of like, all right, I feel overwhelmed. How do I navigate through this? Well, last year, a friend of mine who cooked with this renowned chef, Judy Rogers of the Zuni Cafe. I don't know if you know Judy Rogers, but she was an amazing chef. So, yeah, my friend Kathy worked for her at Zuni for many, many years, and was with Judy when she passed away. And a few months before Judy passed away, Kathy got her to sign a book for me. And she did. And I got the book, and I opened it up, and this is what I saw from Judy Rogers. For Elise, always cook with heart. And I thought, wow, here is this woman who has spent her whole adult life perfecting her craft. This is who she was and what she did. And this was her whole life. Her whole life was about perfecting the craft of cooking and sharing amazing food with others. And this is the message that she left for me. Elise, always cook with heart. And I thought, yeah, that's it. That's it. So how do I navigate when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling like there's too much? I just sort of keep my eye on, just got to keep my heart, like always cook with heart. In fact, always do everything with heart. So anyway, this is my compass. This is what I focus on. And the question I leave for you is, what is yours? Mine is always cook with heart. Thank you.